Hello, believers, and welcome to the Season 2 finale of Believe Me. You join me in the desert, hoping to uncover evidence of an alien conspiracy, as well as the inner workings of creative minds, and also, of course, to share some love for the greatest TV show of all time, The X-Files. I think we've established now that The X-Files more than lives up to that accolade. Hope you've enjoyed this season of Believe Me. We'll be having a fairly substantial break now before Season 3, mainly because I need to, yet again, attend to some work/life tasks which have been taking up a lot of my attention. But we will return in James Bond fashion, and I hope you'll be back with me then. Before that, though, we are ending this season on a mountainous high with today's guest. It's the writer, actor, performer, podcaster and comedian Holly Byrne. Here's some adjectives about Holly, which people have said in reviews and probably just shouted at her on the street. Inventive, exceptional, hilarious, a hoot, that's 2 words, mad, theatrical, hypnotic, sharp, talented, fearless, daring, and quite unlike anything else you'll ever see at the Fringe. That's a sentence there. That goes some way to describe Holly and her act. Another well-known comedian described her as like a one-woman Twin Peaks. She has produced many hour live shows in her time at the Fringe and around the UK. She's recently starred in a short film for Harry Hill as well called The Last Caveman, which you can check out. In the talk today, Holly talks about why the internet must die. She talks about putting her own shows together, what audiences want from her, running her own brilliant podcast called Dream House, do check that out, and we still have some time to talk about The X-Files, Season 2, Episode 25, Anasazi, in which Mulder and Scully come into the possession of a tape containing classified government files. Meanwhile, Mulder's mental health begins to deteriorate and a mysterious, I'm going to say it, alien corpse is discovered on a New Mexico reservation. I absolutely love speaking to Holly for this episode, not least because she seems to approach the X-Files episode we watched, which she'd never seen any of the X-Files at all before. She kind of approaches that as if she was a genuine alien from outer space. So that's a lot of fun to get into. As always, if you like the show, please do send me a message, like and subscribe, write us a review, leave a comment on Apple or Spotify. But in the meantime, in the words of the cigarette-smoking man, burn it. Here's Holly. I usually start off by just asking people how they are. So
oh, lovely. I'm pleased you care. Well, I mean, how long have you got, Chris?
We've got 40 minutes. That's how long we've got. Yeah.
It's not long enough for a therapy session, is it? Or is it? I don't know. I'm all right. It's beginning of 20... I'm quite looking forward to 2025. I think, 2024 was sort of hard work. So
for you personally?
Well, just, I think for the world, wasn't it? So, maybe Trump's being inaugurated today.
How are you feeling about that?
Well, can't do anything about it, can we?
No.
But here we are, prisoners to tech now. But I think this is the year that it all changes. I think we're ready for a sea change. I think this is the year we all go back analog.
Interesting. Yeah, what, off the back of TikTok being banned
off the back
and everyone
of
just
that,
getting sick
off
of
the
X?
back of Musk, off the back of Zuckerberg, off the back of everybody being sick of it, everybody having no... I've got mental health, as they say. Kids, phones. It's not good, is it? Be good, wouldn't it?
It's, I don't know, because there's a pros and cons of the internet, isn't it? Because on the one hand, it has driven forwards, society's progressed, but...
Has it, Chris?
Yeah, because we're all still annoying, aren't we? We're all still. It's just another outlet to be annoying.
We're all still annoying, Chris, that's for sure. That's not stopped.
Yeah.
And I would say, I think I was just talking to a friend about this. We were talking about culture and like, if you think about music and you think about art and stuff, it was always looking to the future. Like, if you think about, it was always looking to see what, I don't know, like Pulp, year 2000, or like,
Right.
1984 or whatever, like lots of cultural stuff, looking to the future, thinking it was going to be optimistic, well, apart from 1984, optimistic and hopeful and stuff. But now, people, I don't think, are excited about the future. I think it's like the future is not hopeful. The future is climate change. The future is like AI. The future is like being taken over by robots,
Yeah, there was like a golden period in the 90s, wasn't there, where we thought we'd solved racism and sexism and we were all going to live in this utopian society
but it ain't, is
soundtracked
it?
by Pulp and, Blur. And now, no, I mean, I don't work with quite a few people in the 20s and, it must just be, no chance of being able to own a flat.
Yeah.
All work's precarious. Don't know, dreadful. Getting into the, I mean, no, if you want to get into the arts, absolutely no chance, no chance whatsoever.
I mean,
So I remember when I was like started, and it was like, oh, you could go on the dole for a bit, and it was also that almost like the government realised the value of art, and it's like we'll give people a couple of years to get themselves sorted out, and then at some point this will be for the benefit of society. But I try not for this podcast to be an old man moaning. So,
Well, sorry, I started it being an old woman moaning, so apologies.
You're welcome. You're welcome to. How are you? Are you busy though? If you're fed up, are you busy? Are you busy
I'm not
and
fed
fed
up
up?
exactly. I'm not busy. I'm not fed up exactly, but it is. It's not. It's not the greatest. It's not a golden era, is it? Let's say. So you've got to find the ways to work it. So. Well, I'm busy doing my own podcast that I've just started.
I know, that's exciting. Yeah, how's that going?
It's good. I mean, I really enjoy the recording and all that, but I mean, it's a lot of admin and tech, Chris, isn't there?
Have you got some folks helping you, or is it predominantly you?
It's predominantly me.
I know. It's like you're right. It's like booking the guest and then researching the guest and then writing all the questions and then
It's a
I've
lot.
also got to watch X-Files episode and then book it in.
Yeah, and then the edit, and then the social media, and then this, and then that, and then work out how you're possibly ever going to make a living from it.
I know, because there's like a benchmark of listeners, isn't there, where it's like, I mean, I used to work with like, it's called like Buzzsprout or something, my provider.
Right, yeah.
And it wasn't hitting those numbers.
No.
I'd get the occasional email from someone in Thailand to go, loving the show. Brilliant. Tell your mates in Thailand. It's like the X-Files community in Thailand is like 5 people. It's like brilliant, great. But no, I'm not. And then I had this whole thing was like, well, maybe if I did get to advertising level, then maybe I don't want to be advertising on the show. Maybe I don't want to be advertising Shell Oil.
Yeah.
And then now I'm like, whatever. We're all just going to hell in a handcart.
Yeah.
I bet you get a lot. I mean, I get a lot out of this, just speaking to people and learning about them and what they're up
totally.
to. So.
And I tell you what, it's because I mostly do mine in person, and it's just really nice seeing people, catching up with people I've not seen for ages, or and then you usually have a really good chat. So around the podcast anyway, so it's nice. It's like a gig, like when you would catch up at a gig. It's like the old days, Chris. As I say, it's like an analog.
Yeah. I mean, how did you do much in terms of like online gigs during the pandemic?
No, I hated all that. I did like one, and I was like, "This is awful."
Yeah.
Did you?
Could imagine you. Yeah. I mean, I knew the answer to that before I even asked it.
Yeah.
Because your stuff's very. You got to be there for your stuff, haven't you?
You got to be there, Chris. You got to be there. So, and I'm not very good when I'm limited in space either.
Right.
I don't do gigs. I can't do a gig sitting down. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, because I was like looking back over your stuff, and I was like, oh, I remember that, and the one you did in a flat in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
And I didn't make it to that, and I'm sad I didn't. But I was like, it's interesting to hear you say, because that is confined. So it's like, how do we confine
Oh
You know,
yeah,
how
it
do we
is.
tie down Holly
It
Byrne in a flat?
No, it is confined, but I mean, I had space to express myself, and leap about
Yeah.
and do my own thing. But if I'm sat on a screen, I find that very, yeah, very limiting. But
Mm.
those things are good for us, aren't they? But yeah, they're like the pause for like you had to sort of say your punchline type thing, and then there would be a delay, and then they would miss it, and then awful.
Yeah, like in the old days where those old Marx Brothers films were like they put the punchline and then left a little pause in. So, the laughter rolled. So if you went to see Marx Brothers, it was like, but now you watch them, everyone's going, that's funny. And it don't work. It's like stony
Yeah,
silence.
yeah.
So are you like, have you always seen yourself as, like a stage performer? Or has there been a shift over the last couple of years to want to embrace more acting in film and TV, or is it?
No, well, I no, I started as an actor anyway because I went to drama school, and then
Right.
and then after a few years of that, I was like, oh yeah, I think my thing's comedy, and then I basically went to Edinburgh, and I hadn't been on the circuit, or I did a comedy course, and then
Right.
then I went on the circuit, then I did it. I just took my a show to Edinburgh, having not been on the circuit and having done no gig. I did one gig or something and realised,
Yeah.
yeah, this is harder than it looks.
Yeah.
Because I just did an hour at the Pleasance, Caledonian Road, and then they put me in the Pleasance London, Pleasance Edinburgh, in the Dome, and then it was a sort of, because the thing about me is when I've got my crowd and I'm good, I can rip it. So, but then when I don't, often I don't. So
Yeah.
it's very much do or die, and it was it was trial by fire.
I mean, at what point did it become fully formed into the act it is now? Is it, you just mentioned going in, just doing an hour in Edinburgh there. Was that more kind of, has it ever been like observational,
No, it's
person
never
on
been
the mic?
observational, but that was
Right.
more. It was still quite out. It was still a bit surreal. It was definitely surreal, but it wasn't as. I hadn't found my voice at that point. It definitely wasn't run of the mill, but it was more sort of, you would say it was a character comedy show sort of thing, So it was more
Right.
standard character comedy, and it was more sort of, yeah. I was finding, and also I was directed by John Gordillo. Do you remember? Do you know John?
The
Do you know
name
those?
rings a bell.
Well,
Yeah.
he was really sort of well known back then for directing Eddie Izzard and Reg D. Hunter and stuff like that.
Right.
So he
Right.
was really he was like the director you wanted kind of thing, and he was incredible. But he was like, oh, you need to die 500 times before you become a comedian.
Yeah.
So I really took that. I really took that to heart, and
Yeah.
did as he said. And then I went to. Then after that, Edinburgh. Oh, and it was a complete nightmare, that Edinburgh, because also I rented a flat, and the flat was condemned mid-run by the fire brigade, and
Oh,
they came
right.
round and they stuck the sheriff of Edinburgh stuck a note on my door like it was the sort of 17th century, and said,
Yeah.
you can't come back in this property. Your lives are at risk. You must leave immediately. Because the
Yeah.
place
I
is
can
in
imagine when
such.
you tell people that, and the sheriff of Edinburgh would have been around, people going, has she
Yeah.
lost it?
Yeah. So we had to
Sheriff of
move
Edinburgh.
out. We were chucked out because the flat was such a, we were paying a lot of money, and the flat was completely unusable and a
Right.
health and safety risk. So we had to be rehoused in student accommodation or whatever. Anyway, and then I took the landlords to court and won.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that was my first Edinburgh. So there was quite a hoo-ha. So then after that, I then ended up, and this was kind of back before people were doing this. I went to Gaulier.
Yes, I was going to ask at what point that kind of came in. Had that always been something you were interested in terms of clowning?
No, not at all, not at all. I can't even remember why I thought about it, but because I was like, do I want to do this? What do I? And then I went there, and I was like, oh, right, yeah, I get it now. This is me.
Right.
So I went there, and I was like, oh, yeah, this is what I can do.
Yeah, because I mean, I only hear the sort of legend of Gaulier, that they make you stand on stage and go make us laugh, and that seems absolutely terrifying. But
Yeah.
yeah, I almost like the idea of the mystery of it.
Yeah, I sort of quite, and also because he's quite fearsome and everybody is. I always do quite well with that sort of thing. I prefer that than like I like a bit of antagonism,
Right.
So that worked quite well for me, and yeah, doing things where you don't have a script and stuff that I don't that I work again. That sort of plays to my strengths, and that's been my evolution ever since. How to make it palatable, Chris.
Yes, right. Can you see a link back to any point in your childhood where, I mean, you've always been a outgoing kind of gregarious performer person?
Yeah, I've always been like that from when I was
Yeah.
a kid. Yeah, definitely. There's no sort of it's not an act.
Yeah. Well, because we have people come on and they talk about wanting to be comedians or get into the arts, and there's always seems to be a kind of a feeling within their family that, oh, for God's sake, don't go off down that route, or you need to be a lawyer or what have you. Was there any of that in your family, or was everybody remarkably supportive of what you wanted to do?
No, everybody's been supportive. My parents would come to Edinburgh and like make my props and help me with
Right.
my set or something like that. But I think now my dad died a few years ago, but my mum would now be like, oh, thinks I've wasted my life, that kind of thing.
Right.
That's always positive, isn't it? It
Right.
feels a bit like that. Yeah, but I've always been, well, for instance, a few months ago on Instagram, I shared some photographs of me with a present that I got for Christmas, which was basically a life-size shop. When I was about 3 or 4, I got given, because I was an only child, surprise, and I got given a life-size shop, which was as in a life-size to adults as well. So
Oh,
it was called
right.
Holly Superstore, and if you look on my Instagram, it's there somewhere. And
Yeah.
it had a life-size huge till, weighing scales, real food, real sweets, real produce in there, in like tins, and you'd weigh bottles, and you'd weigh the sweets and the things, and I was talking about that on Instagram. I wrote a bit about it, and people underneath were like, oh, I can see your comedy makes so much more sense now, because basically that's how I played, and that's how my comedy what my comedy sort of came from,
Right.
especially as an only child. Like, I always remember, and James Acaster has talked about this before, when I used to, because I remember did a gig with him, this was years ago, and I did a bit where I did a stock take in a shop,
Right. Right. Yeah.
and I can't remember really what it probably just was like me carrying boxes,
Yeah.
fake boxes, there was nothing there. But,
Yeah.
so it's very much kind of built on play, I would say.
Yeah, no, I can get behind that and those commenters and yeah, I mean, just you saying you did a stock take, I just went, that's exactly the sort of thing you would do, and it would
Yeah.
be brilliant.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that, but it might have gone on for a long time.
Yeah, there's a kind of childlike innocence, isn't there, watching you that it could do anything, and that's
Yeah,
what's
I
quite
think,
freeing, I
yeah.
think. And watching my kids kind of play is like we lose that, don't we? Without getting too deep at this juncture in the podcast.
Yeah, no, I think we do, and that's what's nice about comedy, when you can get back to that. And that's what I like about clowning and,
Mm,
say, character comedy, in terms of like the best character comedy is kind of pure and innocent and naive, but with that comes, and childlike, and with that comes foolishness and idiocy and no edit and no censor, and you're able to make a fool of yourself, because kids just don't have any block. There's no self-censorship. There's no, you're willing to go anywhere, and that, like, I don't know, Mr. Bean,
yeah.
uh Ab Fab, Sacha Baron Cohen, or, you know, all that sort of thing is built on the stupidity and naivety of childlikeness, you know? And I love that the most.
Do you think it was easier in the past sort of 10, 15 years to do what you do back then, or is it more difficult to do it now? And I mean, by do it, I mean get gigs I mean, we can get on to what you're up to at the minute and where you'd like to go with it, or, you know. Is it difficult for you as a performer? Is it difficult for you to get gigs, and is it difficult for you to find work or navigate any of that at the minute?
Yeah, I think there's not as much. I'm not in the live scene as much as I have been at all, just because of, you know, just I don't want to slog my guts out and go and spend 2 days getting to Aberdeen for 20 quid. But
Yeah.
but I definitely feel like there's a shift in the type of gigs there are. Like when I was starting, like, you know, downstairs at the Albany in Great Portland Street, that was an
Right.
absolute hub, and like Hen and Chickens and stuff. That was an absolute colossus in terms of like character comedy, in terms of sketch nights, into, you know, you could go there any night of the week and there'd be these incredible, like, you know, it was kind of where, because it had the history of the Mighty Boosh, of like, you know, all that lot or whatever. And there was just so many people who would come through there, and there was just so much of that stuff going on, and it was like a real hotbed of that kind of work. And now I wouldn't know where you would go for that sort of thing. It doesn't
Right.
exist. And I feel like now it's very much, also it feels, apart from like, I mean, the gig I like to do the most is live, is Knocked a Bag at the Moth Club.
Yeah.
That's definitely the nicest gig for what I do, and I enjoy playing there, and the space is really good, and it's always a great crowd. But apart from that, I don't know really, if unless you want to do man and a mic stuff, it's kind of hard. And it has to be like, and I've tried to adapt my stuff to be more stand-up-y, because I feel like that's what was people were wanting. So, and also I can do that. I can be myself and be natural and be funny, I think. But definitely there's less of those sort of nights, I'd say. They do exist, but I just think there's less of them. And I think, yeah, and if you want to be a clubbing comic, which I'm not really, I think there's less gigs out there, and I think what's happened, like everything, like TikTok's taken over or whatever, and you know, they're at Top Secret doing TikTok gigs. You know, they're selling out all the time, but then it's like the middle that's been eked out of everything, you know, like
Right.
there's
Yeah.
nothing left in the middle.
You know, you mentioned like bringing people on board, or, you know, making your act palatable for mainstream audiences, but I guess that is slightly soul destroying after a bit. If you're going into somewhere, maybe there's an element of like, right, these people are gonna get on board by the end. It's like a battle, and by the end of it, they're gonna be with me. I imagine that's like fun for 5 or 6 gigs, and then after, like you say, after a while,
Well, that's
you
it. It can be very
go to Plymouth.
emotionally draining when on the Monday
Yeah.
night you really rip it, and then on the Tuesday night you really die. You know, it
Yeah,
can
yeah.
be quite hard to maintain that.
Yeah,
And I mean, I think that's the case with every comic, but I think some people have wider highs and lows than others. You know, some people are a little bit more consistent in that. I mean, you know, to be fair, I can do that when necessary. When needed, I can be consistent. So, but it's certainly a different atmosphere out there now, different kind of, and also I think everybody doing gigs are like recording them and putting them on
yeah,
TikTok.
really warps things, doesn't it? Actually,
Yeah, and what's that about? Like, I mean, I get it, but like, I think, oh man.
Well, again, it's not in the moment, is it? And it's totally. I guess you can kind of just edit it however you want, and you can make it. You know, when the hindsight of being someone who has done stand-up in the past, you can just sort of see through that and go, "There's probably about 5 people at that gig. The laughter's edited, but you know, the Joe blogs, they're going to go, oh wow, this person's absolutely, you know."
I mean,
Yeah.
and I that's what I say. I think at some point there is going to be a shift to analog, and people are going to be like, no, we're not going to allow phones at this gig, or it's going to be something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, because there was a thing that old Reg D. Hunter thing, wasn't there, where he's like, I didn't go to the gig, but there was two Jewish people in the gig, and
Oh, right.
who took issue with something he said, and then stood up and made a comment about Israel and walked out, and then the initial news story I read was like Reg D. Hunter said something really anti-Semitic, and then you actually look at the video and you go. No, he hasn't. They'll just have this is like totally been pulled out of context. But
Really?
if you're
Oh
just
my
getting that
gosh.
clipped video,
Yeah.
it's totally like took it out of context and wild.
Yeah.
So I think you're onto something with that. Like just a removal of any social media from gigging would be actually really beneficial.
What I love is I love being on stage and I love being with people, and that's what I hate about the tech side. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't get into this business to be sat at a computer all the time. I would have gone to work in an office.
Yeah.
But that's, but that's not how it is. So now I wanted to be with people, entertaining people. But
Yeah. So do you see the podcast as a sort of shop front to
yeah.
getting people to come and see you do live work?
Yeah, a shop front generally, and just also because it is live, and it's a different version of myself to what's on stage. It's just a slightly toned down version. It's just more me. It's more natural me, which I think I've always wanted to do some sort of like Mrs. Merton type thing. Would be, would have been great. I would have loved that. That kind of thing. I really enjoy talking to people, and I think part of my strength is that I'm really good interacting with people, and I think a lot of the times in my shows, like the best points would be when I would be interacting with the audience, and in my mind at the moment, I think what I'd really like to try and do is to do that kind of thing for an hour, and some kind of something... Yeah, along those lines.
Oh,
is,
that's really cool.
It's just like early stage thinking about it, but I'm trying to work out, how.
Oh, I can tell that would be incredible. I could totally see like, you've got the intro music. It's all the wheels are coming off. You sort of willing the show ahead. Brilliant.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm thinking about.
Exciting.
Because
Very
I think
exciting.
you've got to play to your strengths, haven't you, Chris?
You do. Yeah, you do.
My strength is that people like it when I'm wild and when I'm risky. Like, if I'm not, like, it's more effort for me because it's always a lot of it's energy. It's a lot of energy. So, but that's what people want from me. There's no point if everybody else is doing Man and Mike. There's no point in me rocking up, telling some jokes.
Yeah. And I guess it's that finding a comedy voice thing where it just suddenly clicks and you say that's what people want from you. It's you come on stage and people just go, that's not what we expect, but it just feels there's a comfort in the uncomfortability of it. Without again sounding too wanky about the whole thing.
Yeah. And it's kind of like authentic, isn't it? Like you have to give people this authenticity thing and do what's right for you.
That's right. Yeah, really interesting. Well, I can't wait to see Holly Byrne Showtime. This episode we're going to talk about is the season 2 finale of the X-Files, season 2, episode 25, Anasazi, directed by
how many seasons did they do?
11.
Wow.
11 seasons, 218 episodes. I'd never actually seen the new ones with old Mulder and Scully, and I've been watching those recently, and it's fairly depressing, actually.
Sorry, say that again. They did a new one?
Yeah, so they were back. Season 10 had Rhys Darby in as a kind of lizard man in an episode called...
When was this?
2018. I totally missed it as well.
Wow.
I was like, oh, it's back. Yeah, it's back. So you've got old Mulder... And you've got old Gillian Anderson, but Gillian Anderson just still looks the same age because she's wonderful and she's an angel, she's sort of incredible person. It's very odd, and the episodes where they actually dive into being old and play that age is good actually, and there's some good episodes come out of that. But when they're still trying to do the kind of, they're both 30, and you just think, why are you stood in a field looking at some bones now? Come on, let's just do something else. The amount of things you could do with the X Files, or just get some new people in. We don't need Mulder and Scully again.
I can't believe they did it. I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Because that was one of the funny things about it coming back is they pay lip service to like shock jocks like Alex Jones and
Okay.
mention
Yeah.
9/11 and
Yeah.
worldwide conspiracies and pandemic. Well, I didn't get to the pandemic, but so it was almost like, yeah, but but I mean, you'd never seen it before. So what did, and like I said before we hit record on this, I did feel slightly bad about throwing you into this because it probably none of it made any sense whatsoever, did it?
Yeah, I mean, not really, but it was. What struck me was that it looks ancient.
Right. Yes.
It's ancient, and you forget that. You forget how old we are, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. It's so camp. I mean, it's basically our version of Murder, She Wrote or Columbo or something. It's that.
Yes.
No disrespect.
Yeah. It is
Am I
TV, isn't it?
I mean, it's yeah.
To be fair to it, I think it still looks good. I will say, Holly, that I'm not like a massive X-File in inverted commas. I've come to it having quite a fondness for the show, so I'm fairly critical about its flaws as well. I'm not like going to stand here and be like, no, this is the most influential show of all time.
That's just telly, isn't it? And the music underneath it, continual music.
Yes, it's
like,
quite
wow.
Garth Marenghi, a lot of that, isn't it?
It's really Garth Marenghi, yeah.
Yeah, those sort of elongated chords and the sort of twinkling, that like A24, like
Yeah,
that
it's
business
really
going on.
like, and I can't remember, but at the time, I mean, I know at the time everybody loved it. It was a huge. I've just never been into sci-fi stuff, so I didn't bother with it. But at the time, did people think it was like everybody who loved it? Did they love it like in a sort of ironic way, or did they absolutely love it?
I think they loved it.
Yeah, I think they loved it as well. Yeah.
But I guess we in the 90s we were in a sort of postmodern world, and there are episodes of the X-Files which are very postmodern and have a lot of humour in it.
Okay.
Like season 3, there's a couple of episodes where Mulder and Scully make fun of themselves, and there's definitely a lot. There's an episode called Humbug, which is set in which is from this season actually, which is set in a circus performers community, and all the circus performers sort of point out that Mulder's like the all-American hero. He stood there looking like Superman. So that kind of sort of shifts the gaze of a bit, where it's kind of pointing back to Mulder and Scully as a sort of prefix, really.
I see, okay. Because it didn't feel like there was much humour in this one.
No. Well, this is a kind of... one of the writers, Darren Morgan, described this as the sort of kitchen sink X-Files episode where everything's in it, everybody's in it. You've got Krychek in it, who's a sort of devious double agent. You've got Mr. X, who's a sort of informant. You've got their boss Skinner. You've got Mulder and Scully. It's aliens. You've got the conspiracy behind everything. Like you said before we start talking, we got Mulder's dad getting topped in it. So there's a lot of things, but it's also, one of the reviewers of it pointed out that it's like, right, you've answered some questions, but you've not answered a lot of questions. So is the X-Files going to just carry on doing this? And that is kind of slightly frustrating after a while, where it could just be totally open-ended, and other doors are open and other doors are closed. And I think the audience after a while did get slightly frustrated by the fact that everybody talks so cryptically and in code, and no one gives anybody a straight answer. But I guess there wouldn't be a show if that was the case. Was there anything particular in the episode that sort of stood out? And I should say this starts with, we're on a Navajo Native American reserve, and Native American kid goes off, and his granddad says, "Careful of the snakes." And then what he uncovers on his motorbike is this like giant metallic object that's been buried under the ground. inside it, he finds something inside it, and it turns out inside there is a kind of desiccated, petrified alien corpse. So we know we're in alien territory. We know we're in kind of conspiracy territory. But like I said, there's a lot going on in this. So was there anything that kind of else that sort of stood out that you thought?
Well, yeah, I didn't get a lot of it because I didn't know the backstory to the dad and all that kind of stuff. And so he goes to his dad's house, and also I didn't realise he was called Fox.
Yeah. So we're just talking about who's this Fox?
Yeah. So I didn't know he was called Fox. What name? And he goes to his dad's house, and then his dad goes to the toilet, and then there's a gunshot, I think, is there?
Yes.
And then he walks into the top bathroom, and his dad's lying there dead, as the dad was popping pills or something.
Yeah. So effectively, the dad has been involved with the shadowy organisation called the Syndicate from So he's top to stop releasing any more secrets. I was just going to say we get some top level violence in this with
there is
people being punched in the face.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then after he dies, he rings what's her face, says, "My dad's dead." He just says, "My dad's dead," or something like that. And she just says, "Where are you?"
Yeah.
And no kind of no sympathies there, and then also she just cuts to the chase because she thinks he's done it.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, up until this point, Scully's been through a lot and is probably sick to the death of Fox Mulder and the whole conspiracy, and she didn't really know what she was signing up for. She thought he was just going to be looking into little cases of the Loch Ness Monster or goodness knows what. So I think she's obviously this is a sort of beginnings of their relationship, and I'm sure it goes on to like will they, won't they have a relationship or what have you, but they're quite kind of, even by the end of the episode, she's again treating him like a teenage boy basically, and he sort of falls into her arms, and she but no, I thought there was a lot to kind of savor in this episode, but no one's swearing either. So someone says BS, that's BS at one point. There's that
what
punch
time
up.
did it go out?
Well, it was like late, sort of 9 in
o'clock?
the UK, 9:30, yeah, and then the kind of weirder, darker episodes went out later. So we'd have them at 11 at night, but no one's ever swearing. So you could have blood and guts and what have you, but everybody's keeping a tight lip on their manners. There's that nice punch up between Skinner as his glasses knocked off his face by Mulder, and then Krychek gets punched in the face as well. That's been a long time coming because he's a little snidey sort of character. And I did wonder who took Mulder's top and his trousers off when he wakes in the morning, because as I say, you have this whole like this loving relationship between Mulder and Scully, so that would have been a big deal for the shippers back in the day.
I see.
Yeah. So it's working on a couple of levels. It's working on you can watch it just like their relationship.
There's a lot of stuff I'm missing. Yeah,
which is why you need to probably go back and watch it again and rewatch the entire thing. Devote your entire life to it, which is what's happened to me now. And I've gone from being like, oh yeah, the X-Files to no, this is like the most serious, influential TV show of all time. You don't realise, guys. So the amount of X-Files forums I'm on now and chuffing, memes popping up. Yeah, I do believe it. To coin a phrase, I want to believe it. I do think it is. Some of those episodes are really nicely shot. It's so like convoluted a lot of the time, and the actors do such a good job because it is so silly. To be able to come out with some of the lines they're coming out with.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
So I've kind of gone fine, and I think it did play such a. I mean, it's a shame when it came back. It didn't feel as progressive as the show was in the 90s, because in the newer episodes you've got gay characters and you've got an attempt to deal with a character who's transgender, but the show does not do that very well at all. It still feels like they're the kind of stuffy grown-ups, and which is a shame because Mulder's portrayed as someone who's quite sex positive, And for women, a lot of women who've gone into the world of STEM and ended up being scientists or doctors have said on record, Scully was a big influence to me. So it's a shame that when it came back, it didn't. I mean, and maybe with this is where it's going with the Ryan Coogler remake. But do you think you will watch any more? I put you on the spot there. Maybe I'll send you a list of like Monster of the Week ones, which are more fun. You've got like Fluke Man.
Maybe it's the sort of thing I feel you probably need to watch it from the start, though, don't you?
Yeah. I mean that précis of like they fancy each other and there's some alien conspiracy.
That's it. That's gives you all you need to know.
And there's a lot of complexity in and out of it, but if you just go on that, you'll get what you need. And as I say, there's episodes that don't mention that at all. And they're just like, we're going to the middle of Ohio and looking at a weird mannerism in the sewer.
And they are quite useful, those shows, when they're a standalone, like Columbo, like Murder, She Wrote. Standalone, they're great for a Friday afternoon. That sort of...
Yes.
Yeah, you can just pop one on.
Exactly.
And I assume the community is still huge, is it?
It is, massive. And I mean, that was one of the things about TikTok. Because like a friend of mine was like, "Oh, you know what we should do with a podcast?" I was like, "What?" He goes, "Cut some clips together and get it on TikTok because it's massive. Text files is massive on TikTok." I was like, "Is it?" So there's people doing edits of like how dreamy David Duchovny is. There's edits of like there's a whole thing about Mulder and Scully are essentially in like a gay relationship. So he's not actually a man in the show; he's a queer woman. This is like a queer coded reading of the X-Files.
Sorry, what?
I know. I'll send you some links. I'm not the right person to be explaining this. That he's like the things he does and the way he acts have been embraced by LGBTQ plus community, and there's a lot of bisexual. Again, I had to look up what bisexual lighting is, and it's like, oh, it's like purple and blue lighting, right? So there's a lot of that in the X-Files. Again, it's just people like projecting what they want, and that's what's great about it because you can kind of go, it could be that, or it's probably not that. It's written by a sort of white middle class man, and he's also, a lot of people say about him, he's not, he doesn't know. Because people are so invested in those characters, they think they know what those characters are. So there's a whole thing, like I mentioned, about Mulder being sex positive, but then he does. He watches a lot of pornography in the show. So, and they joke about him reading pornography. But then the thing, if he's lost his sister, he's very close to Scully, he's very close to his mum. Would he? I don't know. You can enjoy pornography and also be a feminist. I guess. Again, I'm probably not the right person to be talking about this, but. I don't know if he would, if that character would be sat there looking at a girly mag. So it's just how people have kind of gone back and sort of reevaluated it with modern eyes.
But don't you think this is so like what we were saying before about culture and about what like readings like that, which are so like out there. And it's sort of a lot of that is brought on by, I don't know, forums and chat, all that kind of stuff. It's all all conspiracy theories. I mean, okay, we had conspiracy theories before the internet, but like, blimey, not as many as we do now. Surely, I know there were flat earthers before, but this is just a breeding ground for like making up shit, isn't it? It is a breeding ground for drawing attention to yourself by just being like, oh yeah, Mulder and Scully were actually aliens themselves. I don't know, you know what I mean? Like just
maybe that's it. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of the thing is, it's like we're sort of waiting for because it's all there. It's all there, the X-Files. So you can go in and watch the entire thing and pick about what you want to. And I guess people are looking at it and don't feel the sort of kinsmanship to modern shows as they would. It's easier to kind of go back and look at that and enjoy...
And do a reading of it.
Yeah, do a reading of it and enjoy the nostalgia of it and enjoy... I mean, like I said, it does tackle, kind of historical elements of the time of the 90s. So there's an episode in season 3 where they investigate a cult, and it's like Waco, and it's like Jonestown. And I've said before on the podcast as well, the look of the show also embraces modern technology. So there's an episode what's shot a bit like Cops. They do everything they can with the format. There's a format where it's Mulder and Scully in a sitcom, and he's a kind of boorish husband.
Yeah.
And, how does she deal with that? So there's a lot to it, and I don't mind so much if people are coming out with outlandish. It's just like fan
it's
fiction,
quite.
isn't it?
Oh yeah, no, totally. I'm just talking about generally in terms of how interesting it is that, that's how. Well, that's how people spend their time.
And how are you spending your time over the next couple of days?
What a lovely segue,
it's Monday
Chris.
now.
What a lovely
Thank
segue.
you.
I've very much been spending January sort of getting myself sort of sorted out, laying quite low and just like getting my house sorted, getting my
Right.
things I need to do done, kind of admin stuff, setting myself up for the year, planning my year a bit, getting my podcast stuff sorted. I'm about to start up again, so how long do you take for breaks between stuff on podcast?
The issue I've got is I do one episode of the TV show at a time. So and there's 24 episodes per season. So it's very tricky to scheduling guests sometimes because of how it's rolling out. I can't do it out. I suppose I could do it out of sequence, but that would be slightly irritating.
That's true. Yeah, you can't. Yeah, I see.
Yeah. So
I see.
The Humbug episode, I spoke to Tony for that, and I spoke to him in like June last year, and it's only just gone out. So also I have to be kind of wary about people talking about anything that's too current, because that just makes it totally out of date. Yeah. So it does have to be kind of general questioning. But how many do you do at a time?
I mean, I haven't got a system really going on. Because I've only really just sort of So my first batch, I just went up to Christmas, and then I stopped, even though I had a few more. I had more recorded, but I just thought I'd stop it for Christmas because it seemed like a natural break. So I put like 16 out, and then.
I mean, that's a good chunk, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, I think so. And then I'll go. I'll start again in February, and try for the same sort of thing. Yeah.
Believe Me is written and edited by me, Chris Boyd, with production support from Steve Marshall. The music is by Johnny Boyle, and our logo is by Russ Brown. If you like the show, please do hit subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll see you out there next time.